Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk, here in the southeast corner of Scotland. Of course, Scotland is the capital of literally everything. It's the capital of the entire known universe and probably the unknown universe as well. So now you know. I hope everybody has had a great weekend and a good second half to their week after Wednesday's Songwriting Simplified show. We've only got like 12 people here, but hopefully it'll fill up in the next few minutes. That'd be good, hopefully. But yeah, I hope everybody is doing all right. I've had a busy weekend. Just busy. Just busy doing all sorts of things. But we spent this evening watching the closing ceremony of the Paris Olympic Games. I think the games have been really, really excellent this time around. I didn't really get into Tokyo because Tokyo's kind of the lockdown games. And, you know, kind of without a crowd, it was kind of hard to get into it. But I certainly did get into the Paris games quite a bit. And it was great to see a lot of countries do really, really well. United States ending up with well over 100 medals and topping the leaderboard. Well done to them. Congratulations to Team USA on an incredible medal haul. What a medal haul. I mean, that's amazing. 126, I think, medals overall. And Team Great Britain and Northern Ireland came in terms of overall medal haul, came in third place with 65, which is one medal better than in Tokyo 4 years ago. So that's a pretty good achievement. But yeah, it was fantastic. And from a music point of view, I thought the closing ceremony was superb. The orchestra were fantastic. Nobody mentioned the orchestra once, but they were superb. What a terrific job. And then the choir as well. Again, didn't get a mention, but did a terrific job, and they sounded fantastic, especially the youngsters that were in the choir. They sounded really, really great, and they did a splendid job. Highlights for me has got to be the French band, Phoenix. I thought they were great. I'd never heard of them before, but I thought they were really, really good. And then the performance of the Star Spangled Banner was really, really outstanding as well. Really nice arrangement. I don't know who it was that wrote that arrangement, but it was a really, really great reharmonization. Some of which I could certainly dig into a little bit on a Songwriting Simplified show, because there have been many fantastic reharmonizations of the Star Spangled Banner. The one that was done for Biden's inauguration actually totally blew me away. Actually, that was such a good reharmonization. It's probably one of the best ones I've ever heard. But then tonight's was actually really good as well. There were definitely a couple of nicely placed tritonal substitutions, and of course it finished with a backdoor 251, and you just can't get better than that. But anyway, that is for a Songwriting Simplified show. That's not for tonight's show. Tonight is a Studio One show, so if you have a Studio One question, and John Hathwaite does, don't know if I can answer it though, because I'm not really that familiar with MIDI timecode. But yes, if you have a question on Studio One and usage, or mixing, mastering, recording using Studio One, if you're new to Studio One, even if you've been around Studio One for a long time, but you still got questions because you're still kind of finding things out, and I mean, to set that question in context, I've been using Studio One for 11 years, and I'm still discovering features that I didn't even know were there. So I love it when that happens, when I just go, oh, I didn't even know it did that. I found a few of those just recently, actually, just in the last few weeks, where I've just been like, what? I didn't even know that was there. And it was there the whole time. And yeah. So, yeah, Studio One has that kind of depth where you, even if you've been using it for 11 years, every single day professionally, you still find stuff that you didn't realize was there because you probably weren't even looking for it. And then that one time you did go looking for it, you found it or you stumbled across it. I've had a few of those experiences over my time with Studio One. So if you have had such experiences where you've discovered something new that you didn't realize was there in Studio One, please do get that in the chat as well. If you're new here and you've just stumbled across this show, congratulations, welcome. I'm glad you're here. But if you want to answer a question or if you want to post a question, you need to subscribe to do it because the chat mode is subscriber mode only. I've had it set up that way for a few years now. The reason being was a few years back, let's just say I had some unsavory characters that tried to infiltrate and post all sorts of most unpleasant stuff. So I had to set it to subscribers only. So please do subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate it a lot. I am definitely on a march towards 6,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. And I would really appreciate your help to get there. So if you find what I'm doing on this channel with my 2 shows and also the other videos that I've got up here as well, if you find all this stuff really helpful and really useful, then please subscribe. Please like the videos. Please like this show. Helps me out a lot as well, and it helps me march on towards 6,000, especially if you also share as well. Share this show, share the videos that are on my channel if you think they're going to help somebody else in need as well. I would appreciate all of that a lot. It'd make a big difference to me, and I like to be happy, and getting to 6,000 subscribers would make me really happy. So please do help me out. Alrighty, let's see who is here to start with. Because Ron Figura was the first one in. Congratulations, Ron. It's certainly not usual for you to be first in, so congratulations. Followed by Billy Morgan and Stephen Wilson. Danny Taylor is here. He says, I was not first because I was saving nuns, orphans, and puppies from that horrible convent/orphanage/pet store fire. I like the way you got the pet store fire in there. Yeah, I'm sure you wear a cape, Danny. I'm pretty sure you do. And Chris Rackner is here as well. My very good friend. I'm glad you're here. Thank you, mate, for being here. Appreciate it. Caltradusiak is here as well. And we got DJ Vu and who else do we have? We got Bobby Booth. We've got Studio One Tuts as well as Rich Cresswell. Awesome. And we got Don Oliver as well. And we got Keith from Radio Top Frumpet as well. And I think, I'm just checking, do I have everybody? Dave Barcelo, I think, is here. Yes, he is. And John Hathaway, I mentioned already. And Rock Tease is here. Hello, mate. Not seen you for a wee while. I'm glad you're here. And and there we go. I think we've got to the end of the chat, which is cool. All right, so we do actually have a few questions, so I'm going to try and work my way through these bit by bit. And we'll start with John, who says, how does MIDI timecode work? Specifically with the send MIDI timecode option in the external instruments setup. It's a good question. And the answer to that is, I'm not really sure because I don't have any external gear. And so it's not really a feature that I've ever spent any time with because I don't have any external hardware gear, which requires MIDI timecode setup. John says the use case is sending MIDI information to trigger video playback and on a second laptop. That's a great question. Not entirely sure how to do that. Kyle says, show people the channel filter text entry search, but all about the lower left filter. Are you talking about in the mixer there, Kyle? Because yes, I intend to show that. Because it is a very, very cool feature, and it just means, you know, if you want to just mix your guitars, you can just mix just your guitars. If you want to mix, you know, your horn section, you can mix just your horn section. So this indeed is a very, very cool feature. And I'm just going to open up another song with which we can demonstrate this. But first, let me go back to the chat here. Yeah, so I don't really use any external gear like the kind of gear that you're talking about. Unfortunately, John. So I'm not really sure I can answer that question, unfortunately. Sorry about that. But I'm honest on this show, and when I don't know, I pretty much just have to say, I don't know. Hopefully there will be somebody here who does use external gear and could certainly help with that. In fact, Ron Figura says, MIDI timecode uses absolute time in its messages, the actual time on the clock from the beginning of the song or reference point in hours, minutes, seconds, frames, and sub-frames. So there we go. And that person is going to be removed. Goodbye. Unfortunately, I've just had to ban somebody. But it is what it is. All right, let's go back to questions. So sorry, John, I can't really answer that one. DJ says, I've been recently analyzing jazz licks in the song Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple, and I'm impressed by use of such playing techniques in rock music. In a lot of progressive rock music, actually. And I think you can probably count Deep Purple as kind of in that realm. I mean, they don't completely inhabit that realm, but they are definitely an improvisational group. And as such, I'm pretty confident that they are either jazz trained or have had some jazz training in their background. So yeah, you are probably going to encounter, you know, at the very least, some modal playing, either Mixolydian or Dorian, or you know, some other modal playing, or maybe even, you know, the use of, you know, chromatic enclosures and you know, chromatic passing notes and stuff like that. You're probably going to encounter that kind of stuff, and maybe a little bit of outside playing from time to time. Jimi Hendrix was a great exponent, actually, not just of playing blues, deeply blues inflected music, but he also had some jazz chops as well of his own. And I don't think it's any mistake, really, that Jimi Hendrix, for the Hendrix Experience, had a bass player who had jazz training and a drummer who was a jazz drummer and was very influenced by Elvin Jones in particular. And you can certainly hear it in the music that the three of those guys created together, that you know, there was a lot of space that could be filled, because there was, you know, when Jimmy was soloing, there was no other harmonic instrument playing. So, you know, there's a lot of space there that could be filled with some extended harmony from Jimmy on suggested by his improvisation, and also from Noel on the bass, and Mitch Mitchell on drums could explore all kinds of polyrhythms, which he did, and created very, very unique music that was kind of neither rock nor jazz, but both rock and kind of jazz at the same time. It was a very unique fusion that Hendrix had going on there. Hendrix, I think himself, said in interviews that he was quite influenced by the tenor saxophone playing of John Coltrane. So I wonder if some of Coltrane's playing got into some of the ways in which Hendrix improvised. So it wouldn't really surprise me that Smoke on the Water also contains, you know, a little bit of suggested or implied jazz harmony and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's more for a Songwriting Simplified show. But yeah, great observation, and thank you for that. I appreciate it. Rock says, could you tell us the procedure to apply an effect, reverb, or whatever to a single MIDI event in a track? Yes. It's certainly more applicable to an audio track than it is to a MIDI event, but it's it's not really that impossible to do. So let's see if I can. I don't have any MIDI events in that song, so I am actually going to have to create a new song, and that's fine. So let's open up a new song, and we'll get an instrument open. And we'll do this with something from Impact because it's just easy. Let's see. How about my Gretsch small kit? There we go. All right, so let's go over to here. There you go. Get my camera on at the top there. So we've got Impact here, and we can just convert this to a pattern if I can remember how to do that. Convert part to pattern. There we go. And then I can just stick in and let's go and stick in some hi-hats. There we go. And then what we can do is we can just duplicate this pattern. And that's way too fast. I know this sounds a little bit mechanical right now, but if I then also loop this, let's see if we can grab a delay. Use the analog delay. All right, so we've got that little thing here. Let's say we just cut this pan here, and then what we do is we're gonna grab this, but we're also gonna hold down Alt, and see, it won't do it. See, we've got the circle with a cross through it, so it doesn't work on a MIDI event. Okay, so you can add an event effect to a MIDI part. However, if we were to take all of that, and let's say we bounce this, and then we do the same again, but this time we hold down the Alt, and now look, see, you can do it. Add event effects. And then what we can do is we can just use the Pong, something like that. And then what will happen and so there you go. So it didn't really do what I wanted to. Let's see. That width is set to 100% now. Let's crank that up a bit. There you go. There you go. All right, so that's how you do it. Now note, you cannot do this. You cannot apply event effects to a MIDI event. It doesn't work. It would appear that that is a limitation of MIDI. You cannot apply audio event effects to a MIDI event. Okay, that's just a limitation that is in place. But that doesn't mean that that's not a good question. It is a good question. Oops. I wanted to go back to the chat. I clicked on the wrong thing. Let's see. Scroll down a little bit. Carl's got a great question. He says, show people the channel filter text, entry search, but all about the lower left filter. All right, so I can do that. Let me go back to Studio One. This time we're going to open up our other song here. So let's go back to the screen here. So I've got my song Dig Myself a Hole here, which I wrote surprisingly about 5 years ago now. Believe it or not, it's 5 years since this song was released. Now, this is very cool. And this is all about the mixer. Now, what Kyle is talking about is being able to filter the view so that you only see what you want to see in a particular instance. So, for example, let's say with this particular song, I want to only see the saxes because I want to do some processing on the saxes. As you can see, there's nothing here. So if I click on this guy here, and then here, if I type sax, now you'll see I only have the alto, the tenor, and the baritone saxophones. Everything else has been grayed out. It's not that they're muted, because if I play the song, you still hear everything. It's not that these are muted, it's just that they are hidden from view. All right, so only the ones that are lit up are viewable, and then I can just click on that X button now and everything comes back. So you've got these little filter buttons as well. So if I want to only show my buses, I can do that. So now I'm only showing the buses. And I'm going to make that just a little bit more visible. Maybe that's not going to work. But yeah, so if I want to only show my buses, I can click on that guy there. Or if I want to show buses and effects, then I can click on that guy there. And then if I want to just show everything. Now, I have no instrument tracks in here. There's no instruments. So this guy is grayed out. So likewise, if I was to say, I only want to see guitar. So I just type in. I don't even have to type the whole word. I just type in the first 3 letters and immediately we see guitar, 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 solo guitar, guitar bus, guitar 1, guitar 2. So I can do whatever I want to do with just these tracks here. So it's a very, very powerful feature. Another way to be able to show buses, if you don't even want to just, click on these things to turn them off, is just type in the word bus. And now we're only showing the buses. So that means I'm not having to go click here, click here. So I'm not having to do 2 mouse clicks. I just type 3 letters, done. And now I'm showing my buses. So this is very, very cool. And you can filter anything that is here. So again, I can do, let's just say I want to do BVs. So I just type in BV and there we go. BV1, BV2, BV3, and the BV bus. So that's handy. And again, I can do Vox. And now we see the Vox, the double vocal, and the lead vocal bus. So you can filter anything that you want to filter that you know is in your mixer view here. And then when you're done with all the filtering and stuff, you can just close this guy up and it gives you back some real estate so you can show more channels in your mixer view. So I hope that helps. That's a great little question, actually, because this is such a powerful feature. And I don't think that a lot of people are aware of this feature being here. It's very, very powerful. You can either click on any of these buttons. So if you had a VCA or an aux channel, for example, these guys would show up as well. So if you had everything, you'd have all of those filter buttons available to you as well. But yeah, personally, I think it's a very powerful feature if you want to display only a certain set of channels so that you're not having to scroll about back and forth with your mouse. Down at the bottom on this scroll bar, you can say, okay, I am spending a lot of time going between these channels and my bus channels when actually I just want to show my bus channels. Then yeah, you just type bus in there and there you are. You're just viewing your buses, and you can balance your buses. You can pan them if you need to. You can do any further processing that you want to do, whatever you want to do. And then you just click X here and it returns everything back. Alternatively, you can do it like this. You can go, okay, I only want to see these things. Well, you just click on these things and then you just click and drag to make them reappear. Or if you only want to see reverbs and delays and buses, then you can do that. Or if you just want to see nothing, you can hide everything and then make everything reappear. So it's handy little feature. So I hope that helps answer that question. It's a good one. It is a very good one. Let's see. DJ Vu says, sorry, but after Studio One switched to subscription mode, I withdrew a bit because there are no significant changes with this commercial move. Okay, DJ, I'll take that. Because the truth is that there has been no switch. Persona Sphere was launched in 2020. That's 4 years ago that the subscription model was first unveiled. And it was first unveiled alongside Studio One 5 back in, I think it was May the 20-something of 2020. The subscription model has been around for a while, but guess what? You have always been able to buy a perpetual license the whole time. So if the subscription model is not for you, don't buy the subscription model. If nothing about the subscription model excites you, if there's none of the add-ons, none of the features, none of the facilities that the subscription model gets you, excites you, doesn't interest you, don't buy it. It's fine. You can still buy a perpetual license. In fact, if you go to presonus.com today and click on software, click on Studio One, you can buy a perpetual license right now, this minute. Or if you've got an older version of Studio One that you want to upgrade to a perpetual license for version 6, you can do that right now, today, if you want to. I mean, it's entirely up to you, DJ. So there hasn't really been a switch to a subscription model. There has been a subscription model that has been added as an addition, as another way to become involved with Persona's products. It's kind of up to you, really, whichever way you choose to do it. Some people like just the perpetual model because they're not really interested in add-ons. They're not really interested in the Retro Mix Legends add-ons. They're not really interested in any of the other stuff. They're not really interested in the Studio One Plus community. They're not really interested in any of that stuff. What they're interested in is just Studio One Professional. That's all they want. They don't want any of the add-ons. They just want Studio One 6 Professional. And that's fine. You can still do that. Nobody is stopping you from doing that. Least of all, Personas. Okay? They are not stopping you from doing that. If you want to have a perpetual license, you can buy one. You can still buy one. You have been able to buy one for the last 4 years. So you can still do that. If that's the way you prefer to purchase your software, your Persona software, if that's how you want to engage with Studio One, you can still do that, and you will still be able to do that for the foreseeable future. So I don't, other than that, I don't really know what else to say on that subject. So I don't quite understand why you say that you have withdrawn a bit. Um, because there are no significant changes with this commercial move. There's actually a lot of significant additions. I'm not going to say changes because I don't believe changes is the right word to use here. There have definitely been a lot of significant additions to Studio One that make Studio One a whole lot better, personally, for me. And, let me tell you this, for the longest time, I was a perpetual license person. And, that's just the way I purchase software. I buy a license, I use the license until it's no longer supported, and then I upgrade. That has always been my modus operandi for, uh, for years. For years and years and years. Decades, in actual fact. And then when Persona Sphere came on the scene, and I saw the value that is added, did I jump on board immediately? No, I didn't, because it was brand new. And so I knew that, hey, it's not fully fleshed out yet. There's some good things that are there, but it's not really fully fleshed out yet. I'm going to wait. I'm going to bide my time, and I'll see how this thing develops. And if it becomes something that I think adds an enormous amount of value, and to be honest, things like the retro mix legends, the console mix effects, I think those are very, very powerful. And I think those are a really, really good, really, really useful add-on. And yes, I could have just purchased them outright from the shop. I could have done that. I mean, granted, now currently the shop is now closed because it's being redesigned and it's being rebuilt on a much better platform than it was before. I can tell you that part. Um, so, I could have just bought them and said, hey, that's the add-on that I want. But you know what? There's a whole load of extra stuff there that I think provides a lot of excellent added value. Not just the retro mix legends, but really those, I think those are fantastic. There is a whole litany of other stuff that is really, really useful. Pretty much there are loop libraries and sound sets that are added every month to your account. Plus, I think it's pretty cool that if there is a new version of Studio One that is released, it gets dropped straight into your account. You don't have to purchase the upgrade. You don't even have to register it. It's just there. So, there's no product key to mess about with and possibly type incorrectly and then, waste a lot of time trying to get activated. It's just in your account. You just download the install it, done. That was certainly the case with Studio One 6 when we launched that a couple of years ago. And I'm sure that's exactly how it's going to be going forward into the future. That's exactly the same as it has always been. So, you don't have to pay anything extra. You just continue to pay your monthly or your annual. And, you just move along. But, if subscription's not your thing, subscription's not your thing. And that's fine. It doesn't bother me. Personally, doesn't bother me if you're subscription or not. But like I said, the good news for you is you can continue buying perpetual licenses right now as much as you need to or want to. Okay? So you can still do that. Some good chat going on here, helping John Hathaway out with his MIDI thing with video tracks. So that's cool. Thanks guys for that. I appreciate that. And my moderators, I want to say a thank you to you as well for dealing with that little situation that happened. But yeah, thank you very much for dealing with that. Yeah. I mean, that was a case of, I'm pretty sure the person had good intentions, because I mean, they basically, all they said was they had just subscribed and that they were happy to be here. However, the profile the profile name is somewhat inappropriate, so that's kind of why I removed that person, just for full disclosure. So thank you, moderators, for jumping in and helping out there. I appreciate it. Rock Tease, you had a question. I think I answered your question. Yes, I answered your question about applying an effect or reverb to a single MIDI event, which currently cannot be done. Currently cannot be done. Let's see. Okay, I found your other question. Rock says, in the quarter, how would I configure it to play or slow or show only triads, for example? Quarter is very, very good. And by the way, Rock, I did a video series on those note effects that are there. They are very, very cool. So please go check that out, because there is actually a little video series on each one of the types of those note effects, including the quarter. So if you want to check out a video showing that, then you can definitely go check that out. But Rich has the answer, actually. He says, click on learn mode, you can now edit the chords. Exactly right. That's exactly how you would do it. Bobby Booth says, I like Studio One because it covers not only for mixing and mastering people, but also people that want to make their own music. And now you can do Atmos. Yeah, Atmos is really powerful. Excuse me. I have not really used Atmos that much, because most of the people that I work with don't actually want Atmos mixes. So I don't tend to do them, because they don't want them. They actually just want regular traditional stereo mixes. So that's what I do for most people that I work with. That's not to say that I haven't done some. I have done a couple of Atmos mixes. Having never done anything to do with Atmos at all, the learning curve is a little steep, let's just say. But that's not to do with the Studio One implementation of Atmos. Actually, the Studio One integration with Dolby Atmos is superb. It's really, really, really good. It's like having Dolby Atmos literally embedded inside Studio One. It's very, very clever. Very, very clever indeed. And I like the way they've done that. Very, very cool. Very smart implementation of Atmos. But yeah, the learning curve is a little bit steep, because Atmos itself is a little bit complicated to get your head around, because you're no longer dealing with a left, right, front, back kind of stereo space, which is what you deal with a stereo mix. You're dealing with what you want up front, what you want set back, and then what you want set left, and what you want set right. This is what we're used to with a regular stereo mix. But now you're talking about above, below, behind and above, behind and below, at the back above, at the back below. It's literally a sphere of sound that you deal with now with Atmos. Now, as you can see, this room is probably not the right kind of size or dimensions for doing for really going full in on Atmos, and I would need a lot of speakers. I would need at least 10, maybe 12 speakers to do it, and I just don't have the space to be able to do that. I have an interface that can support it because it's got enough outputs, but it's a massive investment. I mean, I have the Eris Pro 6s, and I probably would want at least another 2 sets of Pro 6s, and I would want some Pro 4s as well to complete the setup. So yeah, it's very, very cool. But if you want to do it with like the whole speaker array thing, that's a really expensive investment. And really, you need to know that Atmos is something you are going to be doing a lot of, with a lot of clients who are going to be paying, big bucks for you to deliver an Atmos mix, so that your investment, you can start to recoup the investment back and then start to make profit on it. Really, I'm not in that position to be able to make that kind of investment, because that's not my client base. That's not the people I work with. So I've only done, like, I think 2 Atmos mixes, and that's probably all I will do for the next maybe 3 or 4 years. And maybe then I'll get another person that wants an Atmos mix. But for the most part, I don't see any of my clients ever wanting an Atmos mix. It's just not the music that I work in. Now, if I was Rich Cresswell and I was delivering, final mixes for TV, for film, or for video games, where everything has to be immersive for video games, even if you're using like a binaural simulator with, for headphones, you need the sound to be really, really immersive. And so somebody like Rich would probably do a lot more Atmos-y kind of stuff than I would. But yeah, I think it's great that we have it, because, it means that, hey, there's another door in the space that does Atmos. Pro Tools does it. Nuendo's done it for quite a while. Cubase does it as well. But, it's really very cool that we are now in that space as well. Billy says, not a matter of if, but when 7. I can't answer that question, so I'm going to ignore it. John Hawk says, have you figured out where you got that add-on that you were using last time? No, I haven't. Mostly because I actually haven't had a spare minute to think about it, to be honest. Billy's asking the same question. No, I will try and figure it out. I was absolutely certain that I got it from Studio One Plus membership. But it might be quite a while ago. It might be that I got it maybe a year or more ago. I mean, we've had like add-ons added for 4 years, 4.5 years nearly. So I'm not 100% sure. It might have been something that I scrolled through and found. I think that's how I found it, I think. But yeah, I think that's how I found it. But I remember on Wednesday you guys were saying that you couldn't find it. I'm pretty sure that's where I got it, but yeah, I will double check. But it is very cool, that cinematic Vox thing. Very cool indeed. So let's see. Rich is away for the evening because he's got a lot of stuff to do. Rich, thank you for being here. Thank you for dropping in. I appreciate it. He says, need to drop out early. I have an early start tomorrow. Keep making music and keep learning. Peace. Absolutely. Those are 2 of the most important things that could be said here. Keep making music and keep learning. It's really important to keep exercising your creative muscles when you are making music. Keep making music, even if it is just to stimulate your creativity, even if it is just to exercise your creative muscles, even if what you create is not going to make it on a record. It doesn't have to. Create regardless. One of my friends actually has that as his tagline. Yeah, that's one of Billy, I've answered Rock's question about Corda, and so has Rich Cresswell. But thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate it. So yeah, keep creating regardless, whether you're creating just for fun, or whether you're creating because you're doing a mix for somebody, or whether you're creating because you are making a record. Even if you're not actually making a record, and you know the thing that you're working on is never going to be on a record. You're just having some fun. Have the fun. Have the fun purely for its own merits, and then see where it goes. Who knows? Just the fact that you are completely relaxed about it and you're just having fun with it, it may turn into something really, really good. That's how Dig Myself a Hole came about. I was inspired, first of all, by something that former Prime Minister Boris Johnson said, which I thought was hilarious. So that kind of sparked something in me. I thought, heck, that line, which is basically, I would rather die in a ditch than abandon a particular policy that he had in mind, which was a policy that everybody was just like, you need to stop doing that. And Boris said, absolutely not. I would rather die in a ditch. And I thought, oh, that kind of defiance. There is a song there. And so, indeed, there is a song there. And I wrote it. But did I ever expect that it would be good enough to be something that I would release publicly? No, that I was just having fun playing with the things that Boris Johnson said. I had really no desire to release a new single at that point. I was just having fun with it. And by the time I finished it, I was just like, you know what? This is actually really, really good. This is actually a really, really good song. And it was good fun making it. The arrangement is really good. So I thought, okay, you know what? I'm just going to release this. It wasn't something I expected or anticipated doing, but, you know, sometimes you just got to let those things out, if you know what I mean. Bobby Biz says, what version of Studio One are not supported? Might delete them. You don't need to delete them, especially if you have songs that were started in older versions of Studio One. It may not be worth deleting. But here's the thing. If you have older versions of Studio One, such as version 2, version 3, version 4, these on, you know, version 1, 2, 3, and 4, these are no longer supported versions of Studio One for a start, which directly answers your question. On the other hand, I don't think you necessarily need to delete them. And here's my rationale for that. My rationale for that is you may have certain sound sets that are on your computer that were were available with version 2 and then were discontinued. So they didn't appear in version 3 or version 4, 5, or 6. So, but you still have access to them because you had version 2. They may still be on your computer. So it might be worth keeping them around. And also the other thing is that the big thing with Studio One is the content, the sound sets, the presets for plugins. That's where all the it talks about on the website that you need to have 40 gigs of storage space on your computer available. That's for that. The actual program itself is really, really tiny. It's less than 250 megs. Studio One is not very big. Studio One was deliberately written in such a way that it doesn't have a code-based stratigraphy like Cubase does. The current version of Cubase, which I think is version 14, if you delve in deep enough, you're going to find code going all the way back to version 1 of Cubase, because it's still there inside the program. It's still there inside the code base. So Cubase has just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, which means it takes longer and longer and longer and longer to install a new version of Cubase, because basically it just installs right on top of the previous one. That's how they do it. Why, I don't know. I don't think it's logical. I don't think it's sensible, but that's the way they do it. That's the way they've done it for 35 years. Now, with Studio One, version 1 and version 2 were written on the same code base. Version 3 was a rewrite. They basically went, you know what? We're going to start afresh and we're going to write Studio One from essentially from scratch, which is what they did for version 3, which is why Studio One has such a lean and fast and super responsive code base. It's because there's no like previous versions stuffed inside it. So the installer and the program itself for Studio One is really tiny. It's not very big at all. So it is not really going to take up a lot of space on your hard drives. For example, on this computer, I have version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5, and version 6. All on this computer. And on my Mac, I have version 3, 4, 5, and 6. They don't take up a lot of space. It's the content that takes up space. But the cool thing is, when you install a new version of Studio One, you don't have to install all of the presets and sound sets again. You don't. The installer is really smart. It only installs things that you don't have. For example, if there is a new instrument that is added in a future version of Studio One, if there's like a brand new instrument or a brand new set of plugins that have not appeared in a previous version before, let's just say that those are included in a new version of Studio One in the future, then only that content will need to be installed when you install Studio One, that new version, whatever version that is. Everything else is already there on your computer. So, if on your computer, the very first version of Studio One that you install is version 4, for example, and then you upgrade and you get 5, and then you upgrade again, you get 6, and then you upgrade to whatever is coming in the future, it will always use the content that you installed in version 4. It will reference those. So you don't have to install the sound sets over and over and over and over again. The installer is really smart. It will only install stuff that you don't have that's new. Everything else, it will just reference those older sound sets without any issue. It's really, really smart and lean and sophisticated. It's one of my favorite things about Studio One is that you don't have to keep spending hours and hours and hours installing new content unless it's new to a new version. But so, this computer, I think I installed version 4 on this first, and then I retrospectively installed versions 2 and 3 because I was testing whether version 2 would work on Windows 10. And it kind of does, not very reliably, but it does. It does do it. Your mileage might vary. I don't recommend you try it, but I was curious and just gave it a try. So version 2 actually does work on this computer. So I now have version 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on this computer. And it just references the same content. And then, like I said, anything that exists in the future will get added. You just install that content. Tony says, I know this might be something controversial, but as far as you stating to continue to make music, do you believe that using AI constitutes a legitimate way of composing or creating? That is a question for not this show. That is a question for Wednesday. And I'm considering doing a show basically where we talk just about AI. That AI is the subject. And we will go into a little bit more depth on that. So if you could hold that question, Tony, I'd appreciate it. Hold it for Wednesday. And then on Wednesday, we'll talk a little bit more about AI. Secret Squirrel is here. He says, sorry for the delay. I just saw your message. Okay, cool. And you're talking to John Hawk. That's cool. Bobby says, I didn't think about that. I was just trying to make more room on your computer. Yeah, they don't really take up a lot of room. But one of the things you probably want to check is, content. That kind of thing. Okay, I think we have run out of questions, which is good because we have run out of time. And I didn't notice that Papa Rap to Music came in the door. Damn it. Sorry about that, my friend. I'm glad you're here, though. Thank you for coming. I hope you found this show useful. We have had, let's see what we peaked at. We peaked at 23 people, which is really cool. Considering I kind of advertised the show like 25 minutes before it started, because I was watching the Paris Olympics closing ceremony, which it would seem ran like 30 minutes over. There were aspects of the show that seemed to run late. I think it just took them longer to get the athletes into the arena than they thought. It took them like an extra 30 minutes to get everybody in. And then once they got everybody in, then they started the actual show itself. So I think that was the problem. I think it just took longer, and so it meant that it was later finishing. But the handover to the LA Games for 2028 was very, very cool. Tom Cruise did a thing where he basically abseiled down from the top of the arena down to the bottom and collected the Olympic flag and then rode out on a Harley Davidson, I think it was. It was very cool. Oh yes, Rich posted a Vox add-on, but it was not the one I demoed. Okay. Thanks for that, Billy. So it was very cool. And then you had some performances in LA by the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Billie Eilish, I think, and Snoop Dogg did something as well. It was really good. So I'm really looking forward to the LA Games. Should be really, really good in 4 years' time. And I will be over 50 when we get there. So because I'm 49 this year, I'll be 50 next year. So that'll make me what, 53? Yeah, 53. There we go. And who knows what version of Studio One will be on in 2028. And what features there will be in 2028. That's an exciting prospect all of its own to think about. But anyway, we are over time. Thank you very much for joining me. Neil has just walked in the door and he goes, I missed the damn show. Neil, we always start at 6 p.m. Central Time, buddy. Always 6 p.m. Central. Even if my time changes because of the end of British summertime and the start of British summertime, I will always start it at 6 p.m. Central regardless. So when there is daylight savings time and summertime and all of that business, I will always shift my show so that it always starts at 6 p.m. regardless of whether that's daylight saving time or standard time. Okay? So that goes not just for Neil, but for everybody. That's when my show is. Wednesdays, Sundays, at the same time, unless I cancel the show for whatever reason. Billy has an after show. Everyone is welcome. So yeah, if you want to pile over there, please do. And when you pile over to Billy's Zoom, please be nice. Billy is awesome. He's a great guy and he's very kind and he's very generous with his time. So please be nice to him. And Lucas is too late as well. Lucas, you should know better. I know. It's like 2 a.m. for you, you crazy person. But Lucas, you and I need to catch up anyway, and we should have a chat, mate. So if you're about this week, let me know, Lucas, and we can have a good chat. All right. So until then, folks, over to Billy's for after show. Otherwise, I'll see you on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified. Thanks for all the great questions. We had some really, really good ones. And I appreciate all of your questions, as always. So until then, folks, I wish you a very good night. Good night.